I'm Larry Menti. Welcome to Another Thing. We've been hearing a lot about sanctuary cities. Those are the self-appointed communities where undocumented immigrants are protected from federal immigration laws and can live, for the most part, without fear of deportation. In our area, Philadelphia, New York, Newark, and Trenton, for instance, are sanctuary cities. President-elect Donald Trump has made it clear that he wants to do away with sanctuary cities because he claims they protect criminals. We will begin our coverage now in Philadelphia, where Kolodziej says the mayor has vowed to ignore Donald Trump's threat to punish cities that don't cooperate with his policies. Ellen.
Thank you, Larry. Donald Trump made punishing sanctuary cities a key part of his presidential campaign. But now he not only has to deal with cities such as Philadelphia that say they will defy him, he also has to deal with colleges such as his alma mater, the University of Pennsylvania.
Cities that refuse to cooperate with federal authorities will not receive taxpayer dollars.
President Trump says that one of his main priorities will be to stop federal money going to cities that don't cooperate with the feds when they have illegal immigrants in custody. And many immigration experts agree with his hard line.
We expect cooperation in the enforcement of U.S. immigration policy, and any community that doesn't want to cooperate should not be receiving any funding, not just law enforcement funding. I think cut off all funding for these communities. They're on their own.
But some high-profile mayors of sanctuary cities say they will defy the new president, and they're sending a clear message to illegals.
You are safe in Chicago. You are secure in Chicago. And you are supported in Chicago.
Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney also says no matter what Donald Trump wants, Philadelphia will stay the course. Kenney would not go on camera, but gave us a statement laying out why Philadelphia will remain a sanctuary city. In part, he says this policy makes our city more safe, not less. Our homicide clearance rate is already less than 50% because we have a hard time getting witnesses to come forward. We would likely have an even more difficult time in solving crimes if immigrants are scared that cooperating with police could lead to deportation. In New Jersey, officials in Newark, Jersey City, Trenton, and several other communities and counties have expressed sympathy with at least some of the concepts of the sanctuary city idea. Immigration attorney Christine Flowers says Philadelphia's mayor is absolutely correct on this.
If we have a system where they feel that if they even call the police to try and report that a crime has been committed, that they then themselves are in danger of being picked up by the federal authorities, we are really actually increasing the dangerous aspects, the dangerous natures of our community, because we want people to be able to come out to the police and say, I've been attacked.
And since Trump's election, some colleges are now calling themselves sanctuary campuses, including Swarthmore, which is just outside Philadelphia, and the University of Pennsylvania, where Donald Trump went to school. The president of Penn recently said in an email to students, the University of Pennsylvania will not allow immigration and customs enforcement on our campus unless required by warrant. Christine Flowers says colleges have no business getting involved in this issue, and they need to comply with the law. And she does agree with Trump that any undocumented immigrant who commits a violent crime must be deported immediately.
We need to buttress what the feds are doing, give them more money, make it optimize their capacity to be able to get these dangerous criminals out of the United States. And quite frankly, as an immigration attorney, we shouldn't have dangerous criminal aliens in the United States. They should be gone.
So not only could these sanctuary cities and sanctuary campuses face punishment from the feds, they could also feel some ramifications on a state level. Some local lawmakers here in Pennsylvania say they will introduce legislation that will punish the sanctuary cities and the colleges. Reporting for Another Thing, I'm Kolodziej.
To talk more about sanctuary cities and Donald Trump's threat, the Republicans' threat to cut off funding to sanctuary cities, Johanna Calle, who is the program director for the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Me.
Let's start off with a definition. What is a sanctuary city?
There is no definition, really. It depends on the city. It depends on what the practice looks like. You know, Philly calls itself a Fourth Amendment city, which means that they will uphold the Constitution and make sure that people's constitutional rights are not being hindered.
Does someone who is not documented to be in this country have constitutional rights?
Yes.
How is that possible?
The Constitution doesn't say U.S.-born citizens. It says all men. So it just applies to everyone here.
Since we don't have a clear definition, and I think even proponents of sanctuary cities will tell you there's no clear definition.
Right.
It is just, in general, cities that are not actively within their city limits and with city personnel going out to find people who are here undocumented, and in many cases, in some cases, will not even look at the criminal records for people that they come across or question.
Potentially. I mean, it really comes down to, are you involved in doing immigration enforcement? Right, so asking for, if someone commits a crime, you can follow the law as it is for that particular crime, but then you're not asking about immigration status. You're not going that extra step because that's of the federal agency's realm, and that's what the federal agency is going to do.
There seems like there can be middle ground on this.
Sure.
Violent criminals caught, somebody in the act of committing a violent crime should be turned over to ICE. The local authorities should get involved, and then ICE should take over at that point.
Right, I think the problem is that immigration enforcement especially tends to use a slippery slope. They say, you know, what the definition of a criminal is very broad. What does that even look like? And who that is not very clear. And so when they go out there and
But
say,
there's some look, I understand it. You're
absolutely.
talking about,
but
there's some cases where it's very clear.
Absolutely. And those clear cases are such a small minority. But somehow, for immigrant communities, the threshold is different, even though the rights and the constitutional rights are the same.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that argument that I find.
Yeah.
Is that to protect the group that you want to protect, you have to ostracize that group.
Potentially, but I think the problem is then the law-abiding community members and those who are not really posing a threat to their community are not going to work with law enforcement. They're just not. And so if I know someone's committing a crime in my community, or I witnessed a crime, or I am a victim of a crime, if I think that law enforcement is going to be talking to immigration services, I'm not picking up that phone. And that creates an issue where your community is less safe. So while
and that's why police are for this. There are police departments that are saying the exact same thing, that they want domestic violence calls. They don't want somebody afraid to make that phone call, and they want to be able to work with the community.
Right, and immigrant communities want to live safe too. I mean, they don't want to deal with that kind of, they don't want to be victims of violent crime either.
Just recently, the Attorney General of Louisiana came out with 37 cities that have been so-called sanctuary cities, the nebulous term, in the last couple of years, and in each one of those cities, the crime rate's gone up.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that the sanctuary status is the reason, right? I mean, I would love to see what the crime rate is throughout the state first for us to even determine whether that's
what the breakdown is.
Right. Let's figure out what that actually looks like, because it could be that crime went up everywhere else.
We got into a great conversation, and I've left out Donald Trump completely.
Sure.
What do you expect to happen?
We're really unsure. I mean, I think communities, advocates are really preparing to take him at his word for everything he has said during the campaign, because the reality is that if our communities are going to be targeted, we can't just wait and see. We have to be ready.
Is there a difference in the way sanctuary cities are handled in our area as opposed to the rest of the country?
Yeah, specifically in New Jersey, it's a little bit different because you have state laws that might hinder how cities can establish themselves as a sanctuary status city. Is it an executive order? Is it a police directive?
And the argument against everything you just talked about is that none of that matters because it's in the federal statute that you can't harbor someone who is not documented, and when police departments bring somebody in, by federal law, they have to turn them over.
So the statute is really about, it's not really a mandate, it's an option. So what the federal government is saying, we would like for cities to share immigrant status, immigration status. That's really what it's the key is immigration status, but it's not really a mandate. Cities don't have to do it, they can choose to.
Interestingly enough, the statute that I just read had said nothing about a city. It said a person. Nobody is supposed to be harmed.
Well, I mean, that would, I mean, if you go that far, it could literally be you or I or anyone having a guest in their home who happens to be undocumented. I mean, it's pretty broad there. You really are putting cities in a place, or regular citizens in a place, where they have to somehow racially profile to determine someone's immigration status. No one's walking around with their citizenship on their forehead. And so if that's the case, then you would have to ask me my immigration status, or someone else their immigration status, and then it would become some really not really safe or community-based way of living.
All right, and I won't ask, but thank you so
Thank you.
much. I appreciate you being here. Johanna Calle, Program Coordinator for the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. Coming up next, the controversial Penn East pipeline. Is it a hero delivering low-cost natural gas or an environmental villain? Some answers as Another Thing continues.